Good afternoon. Welcome to today's class. We'll be continuing on Module 5 that looked at side effects and some other things that are related to performing hijama. And we'll be adding on that. We're supposed to be looking at contraindications and some cautions. Like I said, this we're going over because we want to be in the know and we want to be sure of everything we are doing and that we're doing it right. We don't want to be like every other person who's doing hijama, but just for the fun of it claiming to be an expert without the background. The process of hijama itself is very simple and it's very easy, laying the cups, but knowing the way to diagnose on it, knowing the ins and out, like they say, the nooks and the crannies, and what you should know and what you shouldn't know, what you should do and not do, how you should do it and how you should take care of it, and a lot of other things, how it works and makes it necessary for us who don't want to be seen as quacks or opportunists on it, and who don't want to treat in breach of the rules and ethics of medical treatments and code. To treat somebody, you must know. You see the mechanic on the road, you call him a roadside mechanic or something like that because he didn't go to a formal school. He doesn't know a lot about why the engine works like that. He can repair it, he can fix it quite all right. And some are very, very good at fixing the engines. But he cannot explain to you why certain materials are used to make the pistons and some others are not, and why some cars use different materials and different stuff like that. He cannot really explain that in that detail. He doesn't know it, but he can fix it. He can fix your shock absorbers. He doesn't know the law of hydraulics, but he can fix the system if it's bad. So that's the difference between a specialist and one who's just doing it on the roadside. So we had looked at certain side effects, things that you could find comes up when you do hijama, and some might not have been mentioned, and you come to see them, but you see when you hear weird things that come up from I'm hungry to I'm sleepy to I'm feeling like punching somebody, to those who tell you they have the small itch and things like that. But in it all, it is fine. In it all, it is fine and it is okay. You don't find too much out of it. No time too much out of it. It is fine. As they say, all is well that ends well. So sorry about that. So we look at these cautions and contradictions that contraindications that come up. Caution should be used for people who are weak. We've mentioned this before. This came up I think in module 2 on a lighter scale, and people with poor constitution, and some people are very skinny, but they need to have hijama done. Some people are bulky, but with low energy from stagnation, heavy stagnation in the body, or too much coolness or cold in the body. And like I said, when we say cold, we don't mean the person is feeling cold by temperature. We're talking by temperament. So when using moving cups, the cups should not be moved aggressively, but in a milder or gentler way. You find out like you have to oil. If you don't put enough oil, you have a problem. If you put the wrong oil, you have a problem. Best oils, base oils would be coconut oil, olive oil. You can use black oil, but now you can use a combination of oils depending on the type of treatments you do and what you really want to achieve. You find out you could mix olive oil with castor oil, and you could add in some clove oil or onion oil or black seed oil. The combinations are plenty, depending what you're treating. You could have certain oils specifically for treatments, and then the kind of skin the person has. It's very important. Like we said, pregnancy is contraindicated. Just leave it alone. Except if it's during delivery and she's in labor and you want to help out, yes, there are 1 or 2 points you could put a cup that might just help induce further or bring labor out quicker. Otherwise, just leave it alone. You don't need to touch her. Except, like I said, if it's an emergency and like that, you know. When you cup on the abdomen, here you see you're talking about do not do any cupping on the abdomen, mid to lower back or sacrum areas. Some acupuncture points are also contraindicated for pregnancy. This all has to do with pregnancy. If in doubt, it's better not to do any cupping on pregnant women at all. Just leave them alone. Because anywhere you touch there, you go and you put touch stomach 36 because she's complaining of some twisting in anatomy and you induce abortion. You put LI4, it's a problem. Touch spleen 6 is a problem. So it's better to just, leave her alone. As long as she's pregnant, don't cup. Don't put anything anywhere. Just leave her alone. Cupping should also be used with caution for a woman who is menstruating, and as it may be too draining on her or may prolong her menstruation. So you wait for it to stop. As a rule, here in the clinic, we don't do cupping. If the lady is menstruating, we move it forward. Now, if we're treating certain cases like in lumbar spondylosis or related BP and co, and we're supposed to do treatment around that period, we leave it as dry cupping so you don't bleed, because it could change her cycle and so many things. And for fertility, you don't bleed during the period. You actually, if you're doing fertility treatment, it's just after the period, just follicle time period, just few days just after the period between, depending on whether she's a 5-day, 3-day, or 7-day, but it's the few days before the 10th of the circle day, like that. So now, cupping should not be done on any of the following areas where there are major arteries, or where pulse can be felt, areas with edema, areas with skin in disorders or open sores, like that. This is joints with very little muscles covering them, like back of the elbow, top of the knee. But you find out some knees have a lot of skin, so you could put a cup there. And if you're doing certain knee treatments, there are small cups you could put in there. But then, like I said, you need to use the right tools. You don't go blazing with a razor blade or scalpel blade on the knees and cut, 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 cut. No, just use that sharp pointed object. Lancet needles are the standard now that give you peace of mind. On blood clots, where there's some trauma, maybe the person hit and there's blood dislodging there or clot can be there, so you don't do that on deep, such a deep vein, but you can see it there. On broken or fractured bones, you don't do cupping. Cancer tumors, fibroids, cysts, and other nodules. Now, for cancer, fibroids, and cysts, there's the way you cup, but we'll look at that probably when we're looking at treatments. You don't cup on it, you cup around it. There are places where you put cups that would pull over that. Someone who has a very high fever, someone who's convulsing, having muscle spasms, someone who has bleeding disorders, or who takes blood thinners. We've mentioned this before. The nipples or any orifice of the body. Now you don't cup the nipple, but you can cup the breast as a whole. especially where you are doing breast enlargement or firming. You can do that. There are cups for that. And you don't put cups on the eye or on the mouth or the anus, but you can put it in the vaginal area. There's special cups for that and like that. So these are cautions you take, you know. So if you're not trained to use fire to induce vacuum, don't try it. Better learn. So we'll be looking at it when we're doing cupping. We'll show you how to do it. For those who are far away, we will do it online and you would be practicing. We'll be seeing you since we're using Zoom. We can see each other and be sure that you're doing it right, you know. And you have to be cautious with it, not to burn your patient and not to burn anything there, because if you don't hold your thumb properly, the cotton or the fire source could drop either on the patient or on the bed sheet or on the floor. And God forbid you have some oil on the patient, it could catch fire, or the bed sheet could catch fire or cause a burn on the patient and things like that. You just have to be very, very careful like that. You know, especially when you're using alcohol for it, you just little dab so that it just burns and burns off like that. It's good to have a fire extinguisher or other sources like that, and you watch your kind of clothing. For those who wear braids, long braids and like that, you don't do that in any theater or operating room. And when you're doing hijama, you're like in an operating theater. So you pack your hair very well, and it's not a fashion place. So you have to be cautious with all those things. In fact, when you're going to perform hijama on a patient, necklaces are advised to be taken off, bangles, actually, even rings and stuff like that are taken off, not for anything, just for your own safety. Some patient might be in pain, or you might just feel the prick of your needle and grab towards you, maybe pull your hand or your bangle or your necklace or whatever. So it's good not to wear all those things, and keep all methylated spirits or anything that would catch fire in good uh, in good state. Keep them where they would, properly keep everything closed and be very cautious with fire, and try very hard to be cautious. When you're using fire, you'll see it when we go into it, you'll see how it is done. I'll send you some videos in the group on that too, inshallah. So now, hijama, treating with hijama. There's so many things we will be doing with hijama and illness, particular conditions. There are people who come in when they're in good state of health, but there are some people who come in because they're not in a good state, but they're suffering from particular illnesses, which hijama is indicated as a source of treatment for. And, you know, um, hijama bil mard, which is hijama in sickness, yes, you can use it as treatment for a lot of things, like we said, diabetes, high blood pressure, fertility, dementia, and so many things, you know. And there are people like, see, this history you need to know and see people who have used it. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who is the base for the Hanbali Mazhab, will have hijama at any time of the month and hour of the day as a result of the need of performing hijama due to illness. So when people tell you, no, you cannot perform hijama on a certain day at a certain time, no. When somebody is sick, the person is sick, he needs to be treated. Yes, you could say just for leisure, you could avoid it at a certain time, but then we avoid so many things too for at certain times if it's for leisure. You want for leisure to go swimming, but you don't go in the middle of the Hamatan or winter. You go during summer. So there are things you avoid for safety and yourself and at certain times for convenience and to get the best of it. And when performing hijama for specific illnesses, it should be done at those points of the body indicated for the illness. and the rules of amount of blood being removed, etc., should be noted and adhered to for maximum benefit. You see, you're not supposed to drain the person, like we said. Um, it's uh, it's it's important. This whole project, this whole thing we're doing, it's important to keep in mind that you are different from the guy who just buys a kit and says I do, or the lady who says I do hijama because she knows a little Arabic, or he knows a little Arabic, or he has a kit, and he just goes around with the manual from the kit and claims to be treating people, you know. And you need to know the amount of blood is not that you must get that. No, it's that whatever is there will come out. And in class here, we tell people, look, even when the angel of death goes into a room, if there's nothing to take, it just goes out empty. So if you make insertions and there's no toxin there or bad blood at that particular point to come out, nothing will come out. You find out it will just be like you didn't make an insertion. And if there is, if same 3 or 6, say 3, 5, 7 or 9 punches you make, just small with those lancers needles, you see so much will come out. Now, this so much is not so much as in to fill a bottle of Coke. No, 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 no. You find out you might hardly fill one syringe with all the blood that will come out. And I'm talking of a 5 ml syringe, not something too special. So you see, hijama, is specialized, and you need to know the correct points. We said that is why all those charts are there. You need to know which points to bleed and which not to bleed, and how to bleed them, and what you expect and what it tells you. Like I said, we'll be looking at herbs to see what herbs will be taken and how we will be going about with preparing them. Some you might just have to buy, and some you can make yourselves. As you read and you grow, find out you have to be your own pharmacist. So when you treat, you have herbal preparations that go with it to address the deficiencies or excesses present, and to treat cold or heat that is present or absent. So it's very important. Hijama is not just a one stop. It comes with those herbs. It's like every other thing. You do an operation, you give some medicines to heal the patient, to do certain procedures here. Hijama is like that, And like I said, we want to be different. We want to be different from these people who believe because it's a sunnah, it's Islamic, and so everybody is free, everybody can just do it. No, the hijama itself, it's a medical practice that was already present before the time of the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but he encouraged it. And we've seen from our history that it's not specific to any particular region or culture, but rather it's a treatment for the entire world, because you have records now from various places. Unlike other things that you have here and in other places, honey, black seed, moringa, and in each places we have one leaf or the other, one plant, one animal part or mineral that we have. Now you hear people talking of silajit that we don't have here, but we have something equivalent to it, maybe even better. But because we've not looked for it, we are bent on looking for silajit, So this being a medical procedure, as we've always said, and in Islam, we're taught to take precaution and not to engage in anything that can cause harm to us, both spiritually and physically and mentally. So when we learn, people would come out to seek for us, the experts. So we tell people, seek an expert who has all the necessary, like here you see, we're talking biomedical qualifications. What are, for the procedures, what are those biomedical qualifications? This is what we're doing to understand the body. how it functions, why it functions that way, and what you need to do and what you cannot do. If you don't understand that, then you have a problem, and you'll be causing issues to your patients. So, inshallah, we'll continue in the next class from things to be considered before wet cupping or dry cupping is done. We'll be looking at that, inshallah, in the next class. Thank you very much for your time and patience, inshallah. We're getting to that point where it will just be videos and practicals, inshallah, and formulas. So have a great day ahead of you. Thank you so very much. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira.